Thrilling night for you.
We're so excited. This was a campaign we fought for and worked hard for every single day. We knocked on thousands of doors. Like I said in my remarks tonight, we were in every conceivable type of weather imaginable, but ultimately we wanted to talk to people one-on-one, hear what it was they wanted from their representatives, and have a mandate to take that to Ottawa.
This campaign, obviously, you said good and bad. I mean, how difficult personally has it been to block everything out that everybody has said and just concentrate on the campaign? And obviously, like you told me in our writing profiles, knocking on doors, you're hearing different than what the rhetoric was out there.
Knocking on doors is, I think, valuable in terms of political strategy, but it's actually really personally meaningful as well, because a lot of people are not plugged in. They don't follow the news every day. They don't follow politics. But when you show up at their door and say, what matters to you, they have an answer. And these are people that oftentimes don't even know whether their issue is with the provincial government, the federal government, the municipal government, but they know that something's not working. And I was really wanting to tell them what my solutions were and what I'm going to do for them if I get elected.
And you got elected, but it's a Liberal minority. How are you at working across party lines and doing your best to represent here in this riding, right?
Yeah, look, obviously I would have loved to have seen a Conservative majority government, but at the end of the day, my first priority is to serve the constituents and advocate for the platform that they voted for. So regardless of what we find out the government was, by the time all the ballots are counted, I have a mandate to go and bring that fight for this community and to advocate for Conservative values. And I think that what we're going to see is, I think, a Liberal government that is offering more of the same. So the role of a strong opposition has never been more important.
Talk about the values of the riding. What are some of the things here that you're hearing that you really want to advocate for when it comes to getting to Ottawa?
I want to make sure that rural communities are effectively represented by government policy. A lot of the policies of the previous government really ignored rural communities, the agricultural sector, the manufacturing sector. All of those are pivotal in this riding, and I think need a voice and a seat at the table.
And how is next for you? I mean, we're outside the riding, and you said after you got elected you'd move into the riding. Is that something you're planning on doing?
This has always been a riding that I want to devote my heart and soul to serving. I plan to live in the riding, I plan to serve it, and I plan to do the best job I can.
Andrew, convincing win here, but not the result you wanted to see nationally. Do you still have faith in this party's leader, given that the party had a strong lead in the fall and it's come to this?
I think if you look at the actual percentage of the vote nationally, last time I checked anyway, that the Conservatives got, we're seeing a strong base of support for the Conservative government. The issue is right now we have had a collapse of the NDP, and that's something that's playing out nationally. I think the platform we ran on, and I think the leadership of Pierre Poilievre have been exactly what this country needs. That's why I stepped up to run as a candidate, and whatever happens in the future, that's the mandate that I'll champion.
Andrew, do you think, looking back at your campaign, this is an especially euphoric victory for you? And by that I mean, I look at some of the mainstream media coverage, which was perhaps unfair at best, vicious at worst. You had demonstrators picketing outside your campaign office. So in other words, it wasn't just you going up against the Liberal, NDP and PPC candidate. It was the media, special vested interest groups, and yet you still won. What do you say reflecting back on that?
The results speak for themselves. The people saw through a lot of the noise. The people were motivated by the need for change nationally, and also a lot of people that knew exactly what I stood for. They were familiar with my work back when I was in talk radio, my work in media over the last decade, and knew exactly who I was and what I was bringing to the role. So I made that point in all of my videos and comments and when I was talking to people one-on-one at the door. But as I said, the people have spoken.
And Andrew, typically in Canadian history, a minority government lasts about 18 months on average. Do you think you're back knocking on 5,000 doors 18 months from now, and maybe there will be another result for that election?
Look, I'm going to be knocking on doors before the next election, because I think as a member of Parliament, I want to make sure I have my finger on the pulse of the constituents that I'm representing. When the next election is, I don't know. This one only ended a few hours ago, so I don't have an answer for what's going to come in a year and 2 years. But at the end of the day, I think that we desperately need to get the Liberals out of power.
And one last question, Andrew. If you look at the polls going back a few months ago, they were indicating a Conservative majority. Now, as we see, it's a Liberal minority. When we ask the question, what went wrong, what do you think were the dynamics that swung this election so dramatically?
Look, I think once we see the total vote count and exactly what's happened, I think there are going to be a lot of ways to analyze it, and I'm happy to have another conversation to do that. What I've been focused on is our slice of the fight right here in Elgin, St. Thomas, London South. And I think that the conversations that I was having at the door were really indicative of the fact that there is a strong appetite for change. People are not happy with the Liberals, but at the end of the day, this is the result we have to live with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was there anything that surprised you about the campaign here in St. Thomas, Elgin? Was there anything in particular that put wind in your sails? Or
one of the things that I don't know if I'd say surprising, but one of the things that I really appreciated was how all of the different parts of the riding have respect for the diversity of geography in the riding. That, you know, people in South London have this connection to people in Rodney, and they have a connection to people in Port Burwell and St. Thomas. And I think it was really crucial for me to understand how do I effectively represent all of these constituents who are part of this riding but have very different issues that they're all motivated by.
And what was the secret sauce?
Well, I think the secret sauce was just tailoring the solutions that we're offering to the situation. You know, when you're talking to, people in, when you're talking to farmers, you have to discuss how the policies of the Liberal government have really disadvantaged them. When you're talking to a lot of the people that were really affected by the ongoing tensions with the United States, they want to know about that aspect of it. And, a lot of people in London, they don't, they aren't rural, but they're still part of the riding, and you have to have answers for that. So I think it was really just about listening, and that's I think a key part that I brought as a journalist, which helped me as a candidate and will help me as a member of Parliament.
Has there been any preliminary analysis about whether or not you did better in the rural polls as opposed to urban? Any feelings on that?
We don't know which polls have come in and which polls were counted, as far as I know.